Hey manga fans, I've done a couple of manga reviews over the course of the past year or so on this channel where I've looked at volume 1s and given spoiler-free reviews. Now, one of those got a huge outpouring of comments saying, we love this series and we want you to do more, we want you to talk about later volumes, and that was Jun Mochizuki's Pandora Hearts. Now, I really liked that first volume, I was really intrigued by it, and so I was very open to the idea of doing more. And so this is going to be the start of that. Now, these are going to be spoiler-filled videos. This is going to be more of a discussion-type series, kind of my opinions on the volume, but I want to talk about some stuff that's specifics to it. So I'm actually looking to do this more of like a dialogue-type video series, where you fans of Pandora Hearts, I want you to talk about what you thought of these particular volumes and storylines and how the story progresses and so forth. So this is going to be volume 2. Now again, spoiler warnings, there's going to be spoilers. So in this particular volume, we pick up at the end of volume 1 where Oz has returned from the abyss. And now Break decides that he's going to assign Oz, Raven, and Alice to go and hunt down an illegal contractor who is using their chain to murder people in the city. Now Alice is resistant to this because of course she just wants to find her lost memories, to which Break says, well hey, the last time your memories kind of surfaced, chains got involved and stuff, so maybe, if you check this out, yeah, it might be worth your while. So they go hunting this thing down. So that's sort of the first half of this volume, is them hunting that chain and the things that happen. And then the second half is where they revisit the mansion where Oz's coming of age ceremony occurred and where he was tossed into the abyss. And now both of these storylines kind of reveal a lot bigger ideas that are going on in this particular world and sort of give us a bit more of a inkling into the motivations of all of these different factions. Unlike volume 1, where it almost felt overwhelmingly a mishmash of different genres and different stories, Alice in Wonderland being a huge one, this particular volume kind of focused it in a bit more and started working on how this world worked on its own, outside of the obvious influences from other literature and myths and so forth. The first thing that was kind of cool about this was the whole idea of the InQs, which is this clock tattoo that appears on the chest of an illegal contractor. And we find out a little bit more about this too. Like, illegal contractors are people that make deals with chains, which are the creatures from the abyss, and that the chains typically get the contractor to make the contract by promising to change their past. And the way that they have to do this is the chain has to devour enough people, enough souls, enough energy in order to supposedly power up this ability to change the past. Now the InQs itself, it actually is like a clock. Like, it literally moves around and sort of leaves like a tattoo trail as it goes. And when it hits back to zero again, if the contractor has not been successful in feeding their chain enough people, enough energy, the contractor is dragged down into the lowest levels of the abyss. Now we find this out in a pretty brutal way in this particular volume, and it was really effective. And it kind of gives you a really big insight into the character of Break. That he seems to be sort of this clownish and funny type character, and yet he is like a harsh bastard when it comes to trying to teach lessons and show people the terrible realities that they now face. He knows intentionally when he sends Oz and Raven and Alice out that the person that they're going to go and get, this contractor, that they're at the end of their rope and that this person's going to get dragged down into the abyss. And so it just gives you that impression then of, not only does it show you world building in terms of what happens with these chains, what happens with the deals that people make with the chains, but it also gives you a really good insight into who Break is and that he's not playing around. Now the other thing that we find out, the two big shocking parts in sort of the second half when we start talking about Oz going back to the mansion where his coming of age ceremony happened. First one is the whole intention of the abyss. We've wondered since volume 1, like, what is it about Oz? Like, what makes him so important? Well, we find out in this one that the abyss actually has an intelligence behind it, that there's a thing that they refer to as the intention of the abyss, and it seems to be this entity that literally drives the abyss. And in a sense, the Abyss has run a little bit out of control and is running a bit amok, and the chains being able to escape and make these contracts and such. And so people are looking to try and control Oz because they say he has the ability to control the intention of the Abyss. And we see this because the Abyss actually shows up, the intention of the Abyss, and tries to lure Oz away from Alice, and is kind of like, she's just a doll. She doesn't really, she doesn't matter. Why would you stay with her? What do you know about her? And we kind of get a glimpse of Oz's, I don't know how to call it, like his alternate personality. See, the thing about Oz that I really like, and you really see it in this volume, is this whole switch that he seems to have where he's all happy-go-lucky and nothing seems to matter and everything else. And then all of a sudden, Mochizuki does a great thing with his eyes. He changes how Oz's eyes are shaded, and you know immediately that there's been a change in the way that his voice is, in the terms of his behavior, even the way that he draws, how he stands. Everything changes about Oz's personality all of a sudden. It becomes this very dark and almost like capable of evil type of personality. And it's really cool actually how he plays in the artwork with not only like showing the eyes, that's a big point, but there's also a few times where he cuts off the eyes and just shows us Oz's mouth, so that you're almost played with in terms of who is saying this? Is this darker Oz, or is this, happy-go-lucky Oz? And I really liked how he uses the artwork to kind of mess with that idea and mess with the character. In any case, he makes it pretty clear that he has no, intention of hanging out and becoming the Intention's little plaything, as he uses one of Raven's guns to literally blow its avatar's head off. We also see that Alice has a memory in the mansion, and it appears that she lived there at some point. And so we are starting to get this idea that, yes, Alice isn't just a chain, that she was perhaps an actual living person. And which kind of brings the idea of, what are chains? Like, are they just monsters from the Abyss, or are they people that have been somehow dragged into the Abyss and then warped and changed by it? So we're not too sure, right? And we also find out I don't think it was that shocking, is the fact that it's actually been 10 years since Oz was thrown into the Abyss, and that Raven is in fact Gilbert, his valet, his best friend. I wasn't surprised. I probably would think that most of you weren't that surprised either, because especially when Oz several times throughout this volume refers to the fact that Raven reminds him a lot of Gil. So all in all, a lot happened in this volume, but it didn't feel quite as overwhelming as Volume 1, which I think really was just trying to set the pace, set up the world and everything else, hit the ground running. This particular one had all sorts of great things character-wise and gave us some insight into the other players in this particular drama, but did it in a way that didn't feel overwhelming, that had some really good depth to it. And again, the artwork, I love the artwork on this one. Nice, beautiful, clean lines, really good use of the different shadings and tonalities between the whites, grays, blacks, and so forth. Like I said, even being applied to the way a character's eyes look to give us a very distinct impression that something has shifted about them in that particular moment. So some fantastic artwork in this one. I love the artwork in Pandora Hearts. So Volume 2 I thought was a really great volume. Actually better, I thought, than Volume 1. The pacing felt better. I liked how the narrative was sort of clearly cut into the two parts. The whole search for the contractor and then, go to the mansion. So I'm hooked. I'll be back with Volume 3 in a later video for sure. I hope you'll join me then. Leave your comments and thoughts in the comments section down below. Hit that like button if you like this one and you're hoping that I do some more. And I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks very much for watching. Until then, bye-bye for now.